you see a much slower moving river. In less than an hour, we will be getting to our location where we can have our little meal, second breakfast, and that's also a location where we have nice flushing toilets. So if you can hold on that long, it'll be a much more pleasant experience. So I'll be getting out with you and showing you where the spring is at, but you're free to roam around. We'll stay here for about
GoPro, turn off.
is the Icelandic word for lava field. So we're now going to be crossing the lava field or any flooded road. And that is, if you don't know for sure that your car can make it, walk through it first. And then always go downriver as you go into the river and upriver as you're going out. Because as you're going out, the back of your car will point down. And the most dangerous part of driving through a river is that you get water coming in through your exhaust pipe. But when you're going upriver, you create a wave that will pull the water to the side of the car and create a little dip in the back of the vehicle. And so the exhaust pipe will be more likely to be protected.
Eastern Texas. So it's quite obviously in the middle here.
Bring their hand out. No, well, I've got my hand out here, and if you gather around, you'll be able to see the diagrams probably. As she was telling us on the bus, Askya has three. You know, this is the Drengil Mountains. Basically, it's basically the Askya volcano. It's called these Drengil Mountains, and it's a big volcano that's mostly a shield volcano. It's mostly had basaltic eruptions. However, it's also had, through to its fractional crystallization of magma, it's had some very explosive eruptions from rhyolite. So that's a much stickier lava, and when that erupts, because much more pressure has to build up with all the gases, much more force needed for it actually to erupt, and when it does erupt it goes bang, and it makes these huge ash clouds coming up into the sky, and that's what has formed. And then what happens is, with the magma chamber, when enough of it evacuates and just comes out in the eruption, all coming out in all these plumes of volcanic ash and pyroclastic flows, then a void is left, and then everything can collapse in on that void. Now, the first Askya caldera, the Collier caldera, it's a million years old or so. It formed in the Pleistocene, and on this map you can see it's that little ring there, and that little ring there in the northeast corner is this. Do you see the cliff? You see the cliff all coming round here. So this is the original caldera, but then the later calderas have sort of overprinted it. You know, they've cut out, you know, this portion of it, and then you had a caldera that formed in the Holocene. This is the main Askya caldera. It's 8 kilometers wide. And then amazingly, the youngest caldera in the middle, which actually is all filled by the lake, that only formed in the 1875 eruption. You know, it's formed in historic times. So that's a big thing I just wanted to tell you. And here you can see the caldera wall, and I want to just remember to take a picture of that before I walk off. And then the other big story, and why I thought just wait here, is all of this 1961 lava. Well, it's come from literally just behind us. Look, there's a volcanic cone, and there's a little path going up the side of it, and there's more volcanic cones just there. And as we walk up the path and we're just entering into the caldera, we're literally crossing the 1961 fissure. And as we go around the corner, we might be able to just nip up one of these cones and just look in it. But we won't do it here. We'll do the smaller ones just up there. So that's another thing I just wanted to tell you. And then when we get down into the main caldera itself, well, then we'll just be free time, and we'll just be like anyone else on the bus, and we just walk right across to the new caldera. So that's really what I wanted to tell you. Any questions at all? There was also an eruption in 1921 as well, which it was very, very small, but when you're at Spiti, which is this little hydromagmatic crater that we're going to see that formed right at the end of the 1875-76 eruption, you'll see some fresh lava, and also this is the site of a 2014 landslide which caused the 30-meter high tsunami. So I think I've already read out most about the 1875 eruption yesterday when we were seeing those first Askya flows, and she was telling us on the bus how the ash clouds reached all the way to even Poland and Sweden and Scandinavia. So I'm just going to quickly take the
So we had 2 calls.
just free time really, and walk across and take time looking at BT Crater. And the more adventurous of you who can walk and see the slopes, it's worth getting down to the shores of the lake here, because you can see pyroclastic flow deposits here on the shores there. But it is steep, for some people, so you might just want to hang out sort of circling the crater. You can't completely circle that crater because it's roped off and it's too steep, but you can do most of it. Okay? Did anyone, Charles, you were just in the restroom. What we're going to say is this is the Holocene crater, 8 kilometers wide. It's the main Askya caldera. This is the older Pleistocene one. What formed in 1875-76 is this whole massive lake, but we're going to be walking to this little small lake, and some people might think, oh, that's just Askya. No, that's just a little hydromagmatic eruption that formed at the end of the big eruption. The big caldera is the big lake. But anyway, let's get it moving. Bones from 1961. Can you imagine a big fountain of lava firing up from it, everything splattering down, and the lava flow coming out here? And there is a little path up this one, but there's another one just around the corner that I think we'll just climb up that one and just peer in if you want. Now, I forgot to just say when we were driving, she talked about all this pumice. All that pumice is rhyolite, and it is the product of this very explosive eruption in the 1875-1876. But these 19 1961 eruptions, this is basaltic, and you're walking on the scoria from those 1961 eruptions. But as we just walk up here, you're going to see the whole big main Askya caldera, the 88 kilometers across, opening in front of us. This is the caldera that formed, you know, some few hundred thousand years ago, caldera. And then, where you can see the path just going up there, that's where the little VT crater is. It's just there. It's just that path there is the top of it. And this whole sort of horizon here, what you don't realise is just over that horizon, there's the big lake. There is actually the 1875-76 caldera. It's just over a little horizon there, between that horizon and that wall. And what I thought we could just do, if you want to, but it's not for everyone because it's kind of it's a bit slippy and scree and sharp, but if you want to just climb up and have a look into one of those 1961 craters, why not? And then also you can see here, this is 1961 lava here, so some of the lava started here, and then but bigger amounts of it were here. It was hotter here, this is why the iron is oxidized. And when you walk across to the VT Lake, as you walk along, it may sound hollow walking along at times. And you might think, well, why the hell is this? Well, that's because there's still snow under there from 1875. So when the eruption happened, a lot of this material all fell onto snow, and it's actually still down there underneath. So when you're walking along, you know, it's under some meters of volcanic material, it all sounds kind of hollow. Like you could break through. Well, maybe people will break through at some point, but it is hollow in places. So I've been told by some guides here that you're not allowed to look into crater, but then I've been told by others that you are. So let's just do it. And
it's a cinder cone.
don't go too near the edge because it can be unstable.
Thank you, James.
But lava's coming up with this, shooting up. You know, a fountain, maybe hundreds of meters into the air, and all the material splatters down, builds up the cone, and then lava can overtop it and flow out of the base of it. And this is a typical scoria cone. Okay.
Well, this would be similar to what was erupting down near the airport, right? Something of similar size?
Yeah, it's the same type of eruption as that. And it's very similar to the airport eruption, this. Whereas the rhyolitic eruptions are something very much bigger scale. Now take
14,000 years ago, the bigger caldera formed, and then in 1875 the smaller one nested in it. And that's basically what it seems. And actually the 1875 one actually started at the side initially. But then
it's got a very sort of simplified diagram on it all. It's not actually telling us anything we don't already know. But just to sort of look at some nice sort of, you know, so this idea you have an eruption, and then because the magma chamber evacuates out, things fall back down on it, and then the 1875 eruption, it made a caldera just nested in the bigger one. But anyway, let's get there. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Beautiful. It is fun. Yeah, it's
In
a
the
little
right
bit
sun,
of
it looks
scoria.
like a piece of ice, you know?
The scoria is it's obsidian can be scoria.
This actually isn't obsidian though, this is just basaltic rock. Oh, it is volcanic rock.
So do you want to hold the rope? Do you have a rope?
No, he's over there.
You want me to put it down the hole? It's better than what I was saying.
Go and assemble. Oh, I think where our guide is, I think there is a better view of the whole lake. Because here, you can't see the whole lake. You've got to get very close to the edge.
Going down, there's no coming back, right?
No.
It's really interesting. You get to the top there and you can smell the gas. I don't want all these people in this picture, right? But I'm like, you know what? If you don't have them in the picture, you have no idea how big I think and massive this thing is.
So Linda, what do you think that?
Oi. People got all the way down there.
Yeah. Well, they had time to walk all the way around, I guess.
That's Susan and Marcus.
Upside down. Okay, so let's do this together.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are standing right in front of the V crater, and we have crater within crater within crater. So just chronologically, in the far distance when we came in was a Pleistocene crater, and then at the wall here is a Holocene, a couple few, maybe 4,000. That's the outer crater, the main outer crater. Then 1875 produced the big crater lake here that we're going to look at in just a second. And then off to the side of it, there was another eruption, the Viti crater. We're not exactly sure, but we think that's 1921, could be 1921. There's a 1961 eruption behind us, and there's fresh lava back this way, so we don't see it right here. And then in 2014, we have a slump. So if you turn around, Linda, and we'll look in the foreground, here is the recent slump. This crater lake here, very small crater lake, very deep and swimmable, we're told. James has actually done it, he says, is the Viti crater, and it has lots of tephra. You look at the layers in the ash, there's all kinds of tough tephra and layered in here. And then the big lake is from the 1875 eruption. Now the 1875 eruption caused a crater much bigger than just the lake. It includes the lake, but it actually is the basin floor of this inner crater. So quite a lot of crater stratigraphy here. Unlike the moon, it's not due to impact, it's all volcanic here. Okay, so here we are at Askya volcano, and Askya has had many historical eruptions, and so a quick history. It starts in the Pleistocene where we came in. There's a huge outer rim from several thousand years ago, but the things that's most notable in human history is in 1875 there was a huge inner crater, and part of it is filled with water, but we're looking out over 1875 eruption. And in the Viti crater, this is just a little small pond off the big one. This eruption may have been the 1921. There is a slump.
Yeah.
Here we are at the incredible Askya volcano. Now what makes this so special is that this is a very active volcano all the way from the Pleistocene to the outer rim, which is the Holocene a few thousand years ago, to 1875, where there's an inner crater that's partially filled with a very deep lake here, and then a subsidiary crater called Viti, and then some slumping and eruptions in 1921. There's just an incredible amount of activity and history here. And so this volcano is on the mid-Atlantic ridge, and many volcanoes like this are underneath the glaciers, and the glaciers are not that far from here. The Vanajazko glaciers ice cap is about 20 to 30 kilometers south of here, and when volcanoes erupt under the glacier, they cause the flash floods. Here, this volcano is no longer underneath the ice, but it has been in previous times.
I'm gonna punch up this. Yeah.